Hi, I'm Alexandra, and today on Full Stop Reviews, we're covering probably the first ever movie created from a Twitter thread. That's right, today we're taking a look at Zola. So, Zola was based on a 148 epic Twitter thread created by Asia Zola King in 2016. It was dubbed by many hashtag the story. So the movie kind of follows our titular character as she develops this sort of love at first sight friendship with Stephanie, who's also another dancer or stripper. And Stephanie invites her on this trip to Florida to dance. She says, her friend did it and made like $5,000. They're going to go with her boyfriend and her roommate. And this actually turns out to be a horror show of sex trafficking. So the movie begins with this sort of meet cute that reminds me of other friendship-based movies like Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion or I Love You Man or Thelma and Louise. But while director Janexa Bravo uses this really saturated, kind of dreamy world to capture the somewhat kind of glamorous and mysterious inner life of Zola, it gives some of the more extremely traumatic moments and even the kind of small red flags that you're seeing along the way, this really sharp quality that kind of elevates the movie from a comedy in this very stressful situation to this commentary about how often women are put in a situation where they feel completely powerless and out of control of their own situation and their own bodies. To start with the acting, Taylor Page plays an amazing Zola with some of the best glances and glares and eye rolls I think I've ever seen. And while she's been around trapping before and she makes it really clear to Stephanie that she's not trying to judge her for selling sex, Paige does a great job of conveying this very confident person who's ended up in a situation she's tried really hard to never be in before. Paige has an interview with Variety where she talks about how she's always felt like she had to apologize and say sorry, and to really capture this kind of, she says, fearless and powerful character, she had to kind of shed that and let that go. And she kind of strikes this amazing balance between somebody that doesn't take any shit, but also does what they need to do for self-preservation. Riley Q, who I personally really enjoyed in It Comes at Night, plays Stephanie, whose pendulum swings so quickly between perpetrator and victim. It's really hard to keep up if you're supposed to hate this girl or if you're just supposed to feel really bad for her, because she seems to be hanging on for dear life in a storm that she kind of helped create. The other main players in our road trip are going to be X, who's played by Coleman Domingo, whose beautiful big smile makes his sudden change to aggressive and violent pimp that much more surprising. And then we also have Nicholas Braun, who plays this incredibly cringy, gangly white guy with a heart of gold and brains of beans. So the stories faced some criticism for being exaggerated, especially by the real-life Stephanie named Jessica, whose Reddit post has its own brilliant moment in the movie. And I feel like some of that criticism is missing the main point. Asia King, the original Twitter thread author and the executive producer for the movie, has stated that while some of the moments may be embellished, she made people who probably wouldn't want to hear a sex trafficking story want to be part of it because it was entertaining. And honestly, I really have to agree. And while I really appreciate this kind of nuanced look at how strippers could easily fall into sex trafficking, the story doesn't go into the real fact that the real life Stephanie and X, only about a week after the events of the movie occurred, kind of coerced two other women into trapping in Nevada. X sexually assaulted one of the women, and he was actually arrested and is spending 16 years in jail. And while Zola and these two other women kind of make it pretty clear that Stephanie was in on this and is a con artist, I think the movie could have done more to really emphasize that cycle of someone who's faced adversity and sexual abuse in their life becoming the abuser and perpetrating this trauma that they've endured onto other people. I feel like ultimately the script kind of makes Stephanie a bimbo, and instead of making her someone who's traumatized and also using that sort of bimbo veneer, and honestly more horribly the image and thought of her daughter to lure and trap other people into the same troubling circumstances she's experiencing. I really appreciate the movie's commitment to portraying Zola as kind of this really realized 3D person. Asia King has kind of gone on the record and corrected people on social media. I think someone famous, tweeted out the thread and said there's a lot of talent in the hood, and she wanted it to be known that she didn't grow up in the hood. She was a suburban girl. And she just was very confident in her sexuality and thought stripping might be kind of fun when she graduated high school. And I think they do a really good job of that in the movie, sort of differentiating between Zola and Stephanie in these really brilliantly subtle ways, kind of just showing that Zola was clearly raised in a better environment and really takes care of herself. I mean, for instance, she has a really healthy relationship with her boyfriend, which is obviously a very clear foil to the relationship between Stephanie and Derek, which is an absolute train wreck. And even just small things down to like costuming, where at the end of their last day of the road trip from hell, Zola's changed into sneakers, and it kind of makes it seem like Stephanie didn't even think to bring comfortable shoes. Like, the only shoes she's brought along are these heels, so now she's stuck wearing them, even though she just went through probably one of the worst nights of her life. I really enjoy the idea that this movie is saying you don't have to be someone who's coming from horrible circumstances or really down on their luck to get into stripping. And I think it does a good job of showing that not everyone who works in that industry has this traumatic life that they're using stripping to escape, that it's definitely a very verifiable and worthwhile means of making a living. Overall, like almost every A25 movie, Zola creates this very intoxicating environment for its characters to live in. I definitely want to point out Micah Levy's harp and xylophone soundtrack is just so excellent, and it just adds to this really dreamy landscape that kind of gives you the feeling that some characters really romanticize their lives while some of them are constantly daydreaming just to kind of survive their own lives. The movie just zips between harrowing and hilarious, and personally, as someone who's lived in Florida, I can confidently say, yeah, that seems about right. So for me, Zola is going to get a green light. If you liked what you saw today, you can give us a like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Leave me a comment below. Have you seen this movie? How does it compare to the last big stripper movie that came out, Hustlers? And then if you want to hear anything else, we have a longer format podcast with a couple of us from the channel called The Return of the Movie. You can watch that here on YouTube, or you can listen to it anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We also have our shows Too Fast, Too Movie, which is about TV shows, because they're smaller. And then we also have First Timers, where we make one poor soul watch a terrible movie. But until next time, I'm Alex, and this has been Full Stop Reviews.